Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
Okay, everybody, how are you? Welcome to the Goud Crowd. I am your host, Goud. We should, in a few minutes, I think, have Brandy. So she does the Back Home from Brandy segment, and she actually lives in the Chicago suburbs, which is where Charlie Kirk is from. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and we're going to do a little tribute to him, maybe but I wanted to wait to play the video until she comes on because she actually went to some of the. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to tell her, come on. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. So anyway, she actually went to a bunch of the vigils that happened in the suburbs of Chicago. And so that's Charlie Kirk was from Arlington Heights, which is a suburb of Chicago. And then the first TPUSA headquarters was actually in Lamont, Illinois, which is another suburb of Chicago. And if you are a Chicagoan, you're probably familiar with those places. So hopefully she'll be on in a couple minutes here. Until we get there, why don't we have, I wanted to show you guys something. I'll try to find it in a few minutes, but just so people understand the sadness of this, I've been, for me at least, I never personally met Charlie Kirk, but he did impact me. And frankly, I'm not even in his demographic because I'm a middle-aged man, and I think a lot of what he was doing was aimed at high school and college-age kids, inspiring them to get politically active, inspiring them to live lives that were inspired by the Bible and living a Christian life. And I think he did wonderful things. From my own personal perspective, I saw him speak for the first time, I think in 2022 at Awaken Church here in South Jordan when he was in town. And at the time I was running for county clerk. And I remember it was a very, very cool discussion. And he allowed questions to be asked, which was really neat. And then last year, I also listened to his podcast pretty regularly. And last year, in the run-up to the 2024 election, he had gotten on the podcast and said you could come down to Arizona through TP, I think it's Action, which was their PAC, and they would pay for your hotel, and you could go and ballot chase in Arizona. I actually went down and did that for a week before the 2024 election. And, I think Brandy's here. Okay, let's add her to the stream, if I can get to it. Hello.
Hi there, Goud.
Okay. I was just telling them how you are in the suburbs of Chicago, and I'll play the video. There's not music throughout, so if there's any parts you want to narrate and tell people about, you can do that. But let me pull that up. Here we go. I gotta share it though, without sharing other things on my screen. This is always
no worries.
Here we go. Okay. Was this in Arlington Heights?
Yeah, so I did go to Arlington Heights yesterday, and I left at about 2 hours, but it was still going on strong when I left.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
It looks like it. There it goes. It's working.
Charlie is a martyr. So it's a cool sign. Okay. We're looking at photos right now if you're just listening.
Yeah, I did some still shots of
Fascists don't debate, they assassinate. That's a sign that somebody is wearing or holding. We are all Charlie. I've seen a lot of people chanting this now. Patriotism isn't dead. Yeah. No. Oh, this is the Indian
Yes.
guy you interviewed. Yeah.
This is the guy I was talking about.
May this these are signs. May this evil inspire unity and kindness. I didn't get to
Those
read
are
the other
two
one.
teenage girls too. So
Oh wow. Okay. Were there a lot of young people at the event?
George
I
Harris.
was. Oh, here's
from
the
India.
guy.
I was born in India. I came to the US about a decade ago. I'm a family man. I have 6 children. I believe in traditional family life, traditional marriage, just like Charlie Kirk. And also, I'm a pro-life. I strongly support pro-life. So pro-family, pro-life, and you name it. Pretty much a lot of things. What Charlie Kirk believes in, I also believe that. One of the reasons I'm strongly supporting is it's not because of anything else, but to make sure that everybody, including like me, I'm from India, so the diversity is always there in America. I believe in that. It's not about religion. It's not about color of the skin or anything like that. It's about values, and I believe that Charlie did have that value. He promoted the value, stood for that.
Yeah. Is this
This is Lamont.
this is Lamont. Okay.
Yeah, so this is where his headquarters was in Lamont.
Yeah. Okay. And so I guess this was the first headquarters for Turning Point, right?
Yeah, and my mom went down to Lamont and she got some pictures because my mom actually lives in Lamont. So
Stop sharing.
He
didn't say it. All you saw was the outline of the show.
And that was my first video I made in a long time, so I had to splice some things together there. But yeah, my mom went down to Lamont. She got some pictures because she lives in Lamont, and I went to Lamont High School, so there's a connection there. I was just a little bit older than Charlie was, so we weren't in Lamont at the same time. But we did drive up to Arlington Heights. What was that, Gav?
Saying you're almost a generation older than him.
Jeez, Gav. But yeah, we my mom also went to one in Naperville. They had also. And that was pretty good. So, and when we were there in Arlington Heights, they announced that there was going to be 2 other ones that night. So they're popping up. There's so many of them, you can't even keep up with them right now.
Okay.
But, I enjoyed going. There was such a large turnout of young people. It was refreshing to see. And then for someone like me, where Charlie was kind of part of where me and you go way back out. We both started as Democrats. I remember that. Your dark past.
It's true. No, it's very true.
Yeah, we did. And we both grew up in the Chicago suburbs, much like Charlie did. And this is definitely an area where you don't get diversity of opinion at all. We grew up very Democratic because that's all we ever heard. And I went to Columbia College, which is art college downtown, not Columbia, New York, the one in Chicago, just to specify. And, that's an art school, and there was no diversity of thought there. So having someone like Charlie come from our area, he's homegrown. I understand what he went through because you don't hear anything different, and there was no turning point for us. Charlie was part of my turning point. Because he was the second one I discovered. I have to give Milo Yiannopoulos credit. I saw a video of him it was him at DePaul, and I had no idea who he was, but it made the news because Black Lives Matter rushed the stage at DePaul, and this is probably 2014, 2015.
Yeah, I remember that actually. That was crazy, yeah.
And that's the first time I even heard anything different, so I started researching him, and I was like, oh, he's not that bad. I don't know why they were so upset with him. And then from Milo, I went to Charlie because he's the second who came up. And I started watching Charlie. So he was kind of part of my turning point where I started to switch my thoughts and beliefs and wanted to hear different opinions. And then from Charlie, I went to Jordan Peterson. I love Jordan. And then I ended at Ben Shapiro because he was the scary one they told you never to listen to. And so I saved him for last. And I eventually did. And none of these people had any bad thoughts. I could not understand why they were considered divisive because it was just a difference of opinion. And I kind of agreed with most of what they were saying. I'm not quite as religious as Charlie, but he was on the mark with most everything he said. And he talked, I thought he was older when I first started watching him. I was shocked to find out how young he was because he seemed much older.
It's kind of embarrassing when you think about it, because I'm 48 and I don't think I've ever been that eloquent or knowledgeable, right? It's just, well, a lot of people are saying he's a once in a generation talent. I think that's true.
Yeah, and I really wish he was around when we were in college, because it would have definitely probably, you know, I voted for Obama twice, and it was after the second time I voted for him where I started to think maybe I made a mistake, and I wanted to hear new things, and it would have been nice to have someone like Charlie around when we were growing up, especially in the area where it's still very Democratic here and very blue, and nobody wants anybody to say anything different. So he was definitely a big part of me switching to new thoughts and wanting to hear new people speak. So it's definitely a shame what has happened to him. And I think everybody recognizes the political violence that is starting to erupt against certain individuals. So,
well, it's against conservatives. It's been going on for a long time. This is the worst example of it. Because do you remember in 2016 when Trump tried to have a rally in Chicago at USC, and he had to cancel the rally for security reasons? When the Trump supporters left the rally, they got attacked by, I think it was BLM and all these left
people are getting punched in the face and stuff.
Yeah, and you know,
2016.
I remember, this reminded me of that, because I remember after that happened, I called UIC. I used to give them money every year, and I was like, I can't give you guys money because it does not look like you are committed to free speech. Like you actually, you wouldn't let Trump speak. You let his supporters get attacked in the thing, and they're like, no, we support free speech. But I thought it was just like an act, so I was like, I stopped giving them money. I haven't given them a penny since, because to me that was just so offensive. And I think that pattern has continued, right? Remember 2020, they were like attacking conservatives left and right. And then this is like the culmination of that. And I feel like it's sad that it took this for conservatives to finally be like, we're done.
Well, I live in an area where you're hesitant to put any sort of political sign in your yard. You're hesitant to do anything on your car because your car is going to get keyed. And I know there's footage of people keying cars and stuff. So it's like, I can't even put anything on my house because I don't really want it burned down. So it is very difficult. And yet you drive around here all day and you see tons of Democratic stuff. And you can freely do that with no worry that anybody's going to do anything to it. But unfortunately, I can't do anything. Plus, I have a kid here and I got to be super careful. I don't want, bad things to come to our house. And you have to think like that. And you shouldn't have to over a difference of opinion.
Yeah, we got to change it. I want everyone to feel comfortable to express themselves, because I actually think if more people like you start to speak up and be public, places like Illinois will turn red. It's just because some of it is people feeling like, oh, no one else believes like I do. This cannot possibly be a normal thought. And in reality, I think most people actually agree with the things that we believe.
Well, and I think people are now, after what happened here, are going to start coming out more vocally. I think they realize that you have to, because this has gone too far, and we've let the narrative be dominated. Like most of the quotes you see from Charlie Kirk are either half quotes or not even real quotes. Like, I mean, Stephen King went on, what was it? I call it Twitter still. I don't know what it's called, X or whatever, whatever you want to call it. But he went on there and said that he wants to stone gays. And it's like, nobody's ever said anything about that, but people will believe it.
Yeah. Okay, I need you to move your camera down just a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Producer says our heads need to be matching up.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let's see if I can match your head, Goud.
Okay.
That better?
I think that's better. Mr. Producer, let us know if it's not better. You can write me a note.
Was I looking like big and like...
He said, yay, thanks. So I think you're good. Okay, I'm going to share this with you. I want to show you kind of some of the... I will say this. I've been on my own kind of spiritual journey. And, I go to church every Sunday, and I actually had a friend who had been expressing to me that he wanted to find a new church. And I had been I was like, oh, you should check out this church, because we're kind of seeing each other, and I didn't want to be like, come to church with me. because
Sounds like a fun date, Goud.
well, because I felt like if you break up with someone, then it's super awkward and like,
Because you see him at church.
yeah. But I actually, after this, I was like, you know what? I'm being stupid. Like, if he wants to go and he wants to find God, it's not, who the hell am I to stand in his way and make it more difficult? Of course, you should extend the invitation. And so I did, and he actually came.
Oh,
so,
good.
and church was actually more crowded than usual. And I go at 8:30 in the morning. So with
Wow.
young people.
Well, you were always an early riser, so I'll give you that. So, but yeah,
They're like 20-year-olds there. I was like, oh, wow, okay.
I mean, I've gone to church before, but
I'm just showing here. So I wanted to show you some comments. I think you might have some too, right, to show us?
I printed out a list of comments and actually put them by category, Goud, of first responders, famous people. It's actually pretty unbelievably disgusting what people are saying right now. Well, I'm shocked.
I've got one on the screen. Let me show you this. So this is a guy. He's kind of prominent in Utah. He's like a lefty who's all into take mass transit everywhere, don't have a car. He doesn't have a car. He's always lecturing people too. I'm just like, whatever. The one thing he has that he's not a leftist is he's not a vegetarian. So that's like a first.
Yeah, you're going to have to do a shout out. Vegetarians are okay, Mom. It's okay.
Okay, so here's what he posted. So Erica Kirk sent out a message. Did you see her speech the other night?
I read it. I missed it because I was in airport travel, but I read it and it seemed pretty powerful.
Very I watched it. I totally started crying. It was impressive. I understand why he married her. They are clearly on the mission together. So she sent out this text message raising money for TPUSA, right? Saying, hey, we want to continue the legacy. This guy posts and says, I got this text too, and it was super gross. These content creators are just constantly trying to take money off of division and grievance, and this is why we are where we are. Your side murdered her husband, left her a widow, and left her children fatherless. They're 2 and 1, and that is the type of comment that he made about her.
I saw somebody post something about her that was so awful. I did go ahead and record it, and it was something along the lines of here it is. You can't spell Erica Kirk without KKK.
Messed up.
I was like, what in the world? And then somebody else said Erica Kirk is using her husband's death to promote Kirk's vehicle of hate.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, what are you guys thinking? This poor woman, her husband just got shot in front of her, and and she does have 3 Ks in her name because Erica spelled with a K, so that somebody picked up on that. But the things like I printed to read to you, Goud, it's like somebody actually said, I'm still waiting on the flies. I think that's referring to his dead body. That was Samuel Mars. He was on Facebook saying that. Yeah, and then somebody else said, oh no, anyway, how's everyone's day on this fine Wednesday afternoon? Somebody posted that under an article of him being shot. Somebody said, tater tots for dinner tonight. My fantasy football picks are doing great this year. Sorry, not sorry. So anyway, I saw the cutest lizard in my garden today. Another one bites the dust.
Oof.
We finally got someone that can aim.
Oh my God. Ugh, that's so offensive.
That's one way not to debate. Like I said, it goes on and on, Goud. Just called you Guard. See what all the grifting gets you? Let us know where we can donate to the Heroes Legal Fund.
Oh my God. Mr. Producer says, oh my God, that's messed up. The Producer, the left have lost their mind. Disgusting. Here's an example from Utah. This is the head of the Utah Democrat Party. And, they're doing this thing right now where they're pretending like they don't know the motivation of the killer, right? So he's a tranny chaser, which is so trannies, at least to me, they have mental illness and they've succumbed to an evil ideology. Tranny chasers are another level of crazy, because normal people are not attracted to trannies, because what trannies do is they surgically alter themselves and they take hormones. And so you have stuff like a man with women's breasts and a male genitalia. Like, it's not normal to be attracted to that. You actually have to watch like tons of porn and go into very dark places to rewire your brain to want that. So this is him saying, nobody has the full story right now, my friend, but I see nothing to suggest leftist ideology.
No.
Literally.
Didn't he engrave the bullet?
Yes. 3 of the bullets have Antifa slogans on them, and one of them is about being a tranny chaser.
Well, my understanding is that he was asked a question about trans people, and that's the question he got shot while answering.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been strategic that happened that way. I think that person was waiting for a question to shoot him while he was answering that particular question, would be my guess.
I don't know. I'm going to talk about this. I actually have a timeline. I was trying to put this together. There's a lot of pieces missing, but there is an article. The guy that asked the question was interviewed by Deseret News. And he's like a father who's like 31 or something. He's a little bit older. And from what he told the news, it doesn't sound like he has any connection to what happened. Like, he actually seems like he's heterosexual, like a normal, not a tranny and not a tranny chaser, just like a hetero with a wife and kids. So like, and obviously like liberal or leftist, but from the article, it did not sound like he was part of the whole thing.
Gotcha.
But we'll see. Because Dan Bongino said they are investigating to see if there's a connection. So maybe you're right. We'll have to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it's probably going to take a few. Well, you know how everything goes. People make all these guesses. The whole goal is to put the narrative out as quickly as possible so you can deflect it off of most likely a liberal person doing this. Because then it's like January 6th. Like, it doesn't matter what really happened. They'll just keep repeating the narrative that has already been out there.
That's all their stuff. Everything they say. So they're doing the both sides thing. Oh, it's both sides. Like, I don't think there should be any political violence, but the reality is political violence is, I would say, just about exclusively from the left. Their examples of political violence from conservatives are one, the Minnesota legislator who got murdered.
I just heard today that they were finding new evidence that was somebody that was upset that they voted against party lines. The
guy that killed her was a Tim Walz political appointee.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Then they're like, he was a Trump supporter. I'm like, he literally was in a Democrat administration. There's no way. Like, you're making. And then the other example is Paul Pelosi. Remember, there was that weird story where I'll just be honest with you, I thought was his gay lover. That's what I assumed this was.
I remember that.
He's like drinking, and the guy like hits him with the hammer, because I don't understand why he invited that guy into his house. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, that's a Trump supporter. That looks like a homeless bum who's crazy. That's not a Trump supporter. That's just if anything, he's a Democrat. He lives in San Francisco.
That is a very Democratic area. I visited a lot. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah, if someone could find out why Paul Pelosi invited that guy into his house, maybe that would be an interesting story. But I don't think it was. I'm not even sure what it was. He just looked nuts.
Don't they have a gate and high security and stuff? I think I've seen the Pelosi house, and it doesn't look easy to break into.
Yeah, that's why you should ask the question. Like, what was he doing in there?
Like, how did you get there? Yeah.
Okay, I got a comment for you. So Carmelita Canales says Salt Lake City is the same. She's talking about when you were saying you can't put a sign up. Don't you dare put something supporting MAGA, because you will face consequences. I think that's true.
You can't even So my brother wears my grandfather's Star of David, but he has to tuck it in his shirt when he goes to the local grocery store, because twice now people have come up to him in the checkout line and like got mad at him for having a Star of David. So he's got to tuck that under his shirt when he goes grocery shopping. You can't do anything here without upsetting somebody.
That's really weird.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any closing thoughts for us on your on Charlie Kirk?
Well, it looks like I heard today that Milo Yiannopoulos apparently is coming out of retirement because of this. So I'm very interested in seeing what he does next, because he kind of disappeared for like 6 years. But apparently he's pretty upset. And as it's been pointed out, Charlie was the nice one. Now they're going to get Milo. So good luck with that. He's not quite as polite as Charlie was. And, you know, I'll be watching what's going on. Like I said, we've had so many tributes and memorials here, you can't even keep up with it. So he definitely made an impact, even in a blue state like we are. There's so much going on. I do want to do a shout out too, because in Lamont, Matt's Barbecue apparently held some sort of vigil for him, and people are trying to, you know, I guess, tell people not to go there, you know what they do. So anybody in Illinois watching, go to Matt's Barbecue in Lamont and help those guys out.
Yeah, I agree. Go and support them. That's crazy.
And that's another double standard. Yet, like, you can be a business that hangs, you know, rainbow flags and everything, and that's fine. And you do a candlelight vigil for somebody shot, and now they want to shut down your barbecue restaurant. So
yeah.
They got my mom to go there and order nachos because, you know, she doesn't eat meat, but she did order nachos to be supportive.
Yeah. It's okay to be a vegetarian, just to be clear. I was just mocking that guy.
You're just afraid of her now, right, Goud?
I know, right? She's going to call me. Okay. Well, thank you, Brandy. We appreciate it. And we will see you soon.
We'll see you next time, Goud. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Okay. So one thing Mr. Producer says about this Brian King comment, in his defense, Brian King said that yesterday morning. Maybe he doesn't listen to the news. Oh, I think you know exactly what he was doing. Okay. Well, I do want to say that, like just to finish my thought from earlier, you know, I went down and I did the the ballot chasing in Arizona to TP Action, and then I also went down for America Fest because I was so impressed with everything that they were doing. Because if you've ever been down there, it's run by young people. They're so impressive. They're so articulate. They're so everything. Like, they're well groomed, which might sound weird, but it's a really impressive operation, and it's a testament to his talent. The fact that I'm not even in the age demographic, and even I've been impacted by it, it made me emotional. I've cried a few times. I'm glad it's been a little bit of time before I came on, because I don't know that I could even talk about it without starting to cry. Because when it first happened, I saw the video. I couldn't get it out of my head. It's a very graphic video, and then all I could think about is, man, his poor kids. And there were even people in Utah who saw it, and I don't know if they'll be okay from that. So, and that should never have happened, you know. And hopefully the end result of this will be a couple things. One is that we'll have like a revival in the country. I had no idea that he had impacted millions of people around the world. That's beyond impressive. But also, hopefully, we'll now get a terrorist designation for Antifa and be able to dismantle these organizations, their funding networks, and take down this entire thing. Because this type of violence against conservatives has been going on for far too long without any sort of response. And it is time to destroy those leftist organizations, because they're not legitimate. They're not political. They're just out there they're shock troops to intimidate those of us who are conservative, to make it so we don't feel comfortable speaking. That has to stop. We need to actually be able to be free to speak, to be able to be involved politically. I shouldn't have to go to any event and feel afraid that some leftist is going to come and try to kill me or attack me, right? Like, that's how this works. Okay, so what I wanted to start by talking about today is, well, maybe I have to be honest with you, I'm a little bit discombobulated because I couldn't quite get this like straight in my head. But I thought maybe let's talk about the timeline to start. Danny Insight says Utah needs the National Guard, potentially. Potentially. Okay, so let's see here. I was going through and trying to piece the timeline together, and I'll just be honest with you. There's still not a lot of information, and there's a lot of gaps. But I want to kind of just go through this. I'll try to keep it pretty quick, because I think there's a lot of questions we need to ask, and we need to keep asking them. One of the hallmarks, I think, of Governor Cox's press conference after they caught him, the perpetrator, the tranny chaser, was that he seemed to be discouraging further questions about this. And I think it's actually really important that we dig into this and that we understand everything that happened, because the reality is this kid, or adult, he's a young adult, he comes from what appears to be a pretty typical Utah Mormon family. I live in Riverton. When I read about this family, they strike me as any of my neighbors could be the same. And so it's really important. And so I think that kid could have come out of any part of the state. And so it's really important that we understand what happened, how a kid who comes from, I assume, a solid Mormon family who is teaching their kid the values that the church teaches, things like the family proclamation, ends up getting radicalized into the trans agenda, turning into a tranny chaser, which is another form of extremism, and actually being radicalized to the point where he ends up killing Charlie Kirk. That is, we need to understand that, because I don't want that to happen again. And you can't just move on. There seems to be a lot of people who just want to move on, act like it didn't happen, or they take it as this means the LDS church or the Mormon religion is bad. I don't think that's what it means. I think you just want to understand it, because if it can happen in Washington City, Utah, it can happen anywhere in Utah. And frankly, if you think about it, considering that Utah is one of the more religious states, and a lot of times what you see with religious families is that the parents and the religious group kind of are a force field around the kids, protecting them from these very negative forces that are out there. Because the reality of the way our country works today is there are a lot of evil people who are trying to get to your children. They're trying to sexualize them at a young age. They're trying to trans them. And we have people in Utah who are dedicated to doing that. They're trying to radicalize them. A lot of times they don't have kids. If you notice this, if you look at the people that are the most active in these types of organizations, typically they don't have kids. Because they don't have kids, they come after your children. And like I said, normally religious families are able to protect their children from these types of influences. When something is able to break through it, we want to understand why that happened, what happened. And that way, families throughout Utah, and really probably throughout the country, can prevent this from happening to their children. That should be your goal. You want to protect your children from this. What happened is horrible. And it's horrible from every perspective. I can't think of a positive perspective. It's just horrible all around. Okay, let's see here. Mr. Producer says this is a strange and complicated story. It's turning out there might be an entire dark web out there for both furries and the trans community. I believe that is correct. And then Carmelita says the Mormon church has been infiltrated. I mean, I think maybe there's some liberalism going on there, which is not just them. I was watching War Room, and I think Bannon actually made a good point on this, that you have a lot of churches that have become a little bit more woke, or at least have portions of them that are woke. The Mormon church might feel a little bit different, or maybe more like the Catholic church, because it's kind of a little bit more organized. Yeah. So what Danny said, not just the Mormons, all organized religion has been infiltrated by the trans cult. I think that's right. I think the difference is in Utah, you would feel it more from the Mormon church than you would from other churches. So that might be just the difference there. Okay, so here's what I've been able to kind of piece together by listening to the different press conferences and then listening to today. I thought actually today we got some good interviews from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Before we get to that, I'll just note that, Governor Cox was all over the Sunday shows yesterday, mouthing off, talking about basically not being precise with information. I don't understand why he was on these interviews at all, because he's not law enforcement. And if you go and watch his interviews and compare them to the ones from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, you'll see the difference. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are very, very particular and specific. In one of the interviews I saw, Kash Patel talks about there's like a towel and there's a screwdriver and there's a gun. So they find a screwdriver on the roof. The gun is wrapped in a towel, and he says there's fingerprints on the screwdriver and the towel, right? And so he says to the interviewer says back, okay, so you guys found his fingerprints on the gun. Kash Patel is like, no, let me be clear. We do not know if his fingerprints are on the gun. They're on the towel and on the screwdriver. The gun is still being evaluated. Very specific, very careful, and that takes really paying attention when people are talking to you. That is not what we got from Governor Cox. Okay, like I said, Governor Cox should not have not been on TV. Here, let me play this for you guys. And also one of the things is Governor Cox did lie about, as I believe Danny Insight just pointed out, he did lie about being asked that he was asked by the White House to go and do those interviews, which I cannot even believe that he lied about that. That's crazy to me. But let me pull this up for you guys, and I'll play you the clip.
He's also a bald-faced liar. And let me tell you what he's a bald-faced liar about. The White House did not contact him and ask him to go on TV and do a full Ginsburg yesterday. He notified the White House that, hey, a couple of Sunday shows are reaching out to me. Do you have some, things? And they sent, hey, here's what the president's been saying. Because what the president's been saying is not what you've said. That's why the president called him when he had the press briefing, and he took the role of really the FBI director and gave the details, and then went on that long, felt like 15-minute speech. He's also a bald-faced liar, and let me tell you where he's a bald.
Well, so what's going on with this though is that Cox is trying to use this to increase his presence on the national stage and set himself up to run for president. It's so craven, it's so disgusting and opportunistic to use somebody else's death to try to promote yourself on the national stage, because he really has no role doing that. And again, if you go and you compare Cox's like weird interviews yesterday, where he obviously has a lot of makeup on, just side note, I don't know who does, if you look at him on Friday and Saturday, or Friday, he's like totally pale. He has kind of like this his cheeks are all saggy, and then suddenly on the Sunday shows, he's got a tan. This like lighting in his office is like perfect. It's like a spray tan just for the interviews. It's totally opportunistic. It's gross and it's craven. And again, like the difference, the interviews you should have had were with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino with the specificities. I'd even be fine if our commissioner of the Department of Public Safety went on there, because he's more of if you saw him in the press conference, he's actually more of a business guy. Like, here's what happened, here's the facts. That's what you want. You don't want someone pontificating, lecturing you about his disagree better stuff, saying stuff that's not even correct. Cox is just a mess. So, and then Mr. Producer says, Bannon pulled Cox's sheets. Spencer lied. Yeah, word to that. Okay, so that was kind of that point. So let me go through kind of what I've been able to piece together on this timeline. Okay, so first, there's a lot of information that's come out about what happened beforehand. So there was on the one thing I don't know is when the event for Charlie Kirk was first publicized. Meaning, when did they first publicize that Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU? The reason I ask this is because in a Fox News interview, I think it was Brett Baer, said it was a week before the event. I don't think he was quite right about that, because the event was on 9/10. That would have put it at 9/3. But then I was looking at on 8/29 of 2025, a petition was started to stop stop the event from happening. So it was at least 8/29/2025. I suspect it was probably before that. So, and the reason I'm asking that though is I'm wondering like how much pre-planning went into this, and we don't know. There's not a lot of dates from the pre 9/10 timeline. There's not a lot of information. So we know now that the killer had expressed explicitly that Charlie Kirk was coming to town, and that he wanted to kill him, and he was going to take a shot. Let me see if I can find the exact quote. I wrote this down. Let's see here. And this is what I was saying. I'll be a little bit messy today. Okay, so he had a text message exchange with another individual. We don't know who the individual is, and we don't know the date of it, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for. So we don't know who this is with. We don't know when it was. We don't know if the person believed it or just brushed it off like, whatever, this guy talks crazy. He's a tranny chaser. He likes furries. Like, probably just making stuff up. I don't know. I don't know how you deal with someone like that. Let's say if someone texted you that, how would you respond to it? And would you? And I guess maybe I would send it to authorities and be like, I don't know what this is, so out of character and weird, because I don't have friends that would send me stuff like that. I think I would just send it to authorities and be like, I don't know what this is, but can you please look into this, because this sounds crazy and I don't want to be responsible if someone is killed. Anyway, I don't think the person sends it to authorities. So they're investigating what that person knew, what that person thought. There was also apparently a written note. I'm a little confused about this because Kash Patel talked about this. Apparently a written note existed. They have evidence to show that there was a note. The note itself, I think, has been destroyed. The note was in the partner's house. So the guy who's quote unquote transitioning to be a girl, the actual tranny. And they said that the note is gone, but they have found forensic evidence of the note. Now, to me, that suggests that the partner knew about this, which is opposite of what Cox said, because Cox actually said that the partner didn't know anything. Let me see if I can find that. Hold on. Well, the Higher Ground says Cox is a publicity hound, though. He's leveraging the crisis to catapult his image onto the national stage. Yeah. And also to frame the narrative about the quote unquote trans boyfriend. He tried to portray him as cooperative and helpful in the investigation, not as a potential contributor to the alleged shooter's radicalization. Yes, exactly. So let's see. I'm going to find that quote here because I know that I posted about it. Because I think that if you think about this, the reason it's important, I think he was trying to, here.
This part.
By the way, look at her face. You can tell she doesn't want him to say yes.
Well, some outlets are reporting that the suspect lived with a transgender partner. Is that accurate? And are investigators looking at this part of his life as a possible motivation?
Yes, definitely. And yes, I can confirm that. I know that has been reported, and that the FBI has confirmed that as well, that the roommate was a romantic partner, a male transitioning to female. I can say that that he has been very cooperative. This partner has been incredibly cooperative, had no idea that this was happening, and is working with investigators right now.
Well,
Okay. So, but that to me contradicts Kash Patel's statement that there was a note in the house that has been destroyed. So that strikes me as that partner was not being cooperative and may have known about this and destroyed the note where the guy said, I want to, because I think the paper note matched the text message saying that he would have an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for. But I guess there's more to come on that. Then we've got, there's a bunch of other stuff about kind of people having observations about him. Some of it, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I would respond to that myself. Cause like one of the things said the coworkers noticed that he would detach himself when people talked about politics. Okay, well, that one, it doesn't strike me as being notable maybe, unless we know more about what that means. And maybe we'll find out more tomorrow when they file the charges against him. that document should be very interesting. Now, on 9/10, according to one of the press conferences, he drove into the UVU parking lot or the university at 8:29 a.m. That's when he showed up in his gray Dodge Challenger. My question here is like, where was he coming from? They haven't answered that. So did he drive up from Washington City, which is like a 3.5-hour drive, or was he in? Did he drive up the night before and stay at somebody's house that was in the area? Because there were some statements about having to pick up a gun in it, like something that suggests a little bit more pre-planning than what we're talking about. Now, the other part that's weird is he doesn't show up again on surveillance footage until 11:50, according to the probable cause statement. So I don't understand what was going on during that 3.5-hour almost period of time. Where was he? What was he doing? Also, is this the first time he showed up at UVU, or had he been there before to go and case out what this was going to look like and where he would go and shoot from? Like, what were the best vantage points? I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who is more of a country boy. You know, I grew up in the suburbs, and I did not grow up shooting guns because I have Indian immigrant parents, and that was not a thing. But my friend did. And so I was asking him, I'm like, well, you're kind of a country boy. Like, do you think you could do this? Because essentially, if you read the probable cause statement, the guy literally, allegedly, like, runs out from the spot on the roof at 12:22, goes to the spot he's going to shoot from, gets into the prone position, and then shoots at 12:23 and then takes off. Like, to me, that takes a lot of skill to be able to do that and hit the shot he hit. But my friend who shot a lot as a kid actually thinks that he could do it, and that's something that people could do. So I guess we'll need to know more about that. I'm a little bit unclear on it. Now, so 11:50, he shows up on surveillance cameras, and then let me see. I have this. This is the Mug Club got the probable cause statement. I cannot read these to you off of this computer because it won't come up big enough. But this was the one that says, like, if you want to see the timeline, they lay it out here. And, you know, as he makes his way to the thing, before he gets into the pedestrian tunnel to close the door, he actually makes a phone call. And Kash Patel said that they have the geolocation, so they know where the other person was on that phone call. I thought that was kind of interesting. It'll be interesting. Like, who did he call? What was he talking about? Did he call the tranny partner? I don't know. Did he call his parents? I don't know. I'd like to know this stuff. So that's that. So 11:53 is when he approaches the tunnel, pulls out the phone, makes a phone call. Then, like I said, I think I described how quickly the shooting happened. I was just talking about this earlier. So here's the article. I'm going to skip ahead. So a guy asked a question. And when he asked the question about trans, it's in this article. Hold on. So the guy who asked the last question said, let me pull this up. So this is the guy that asked the last question. He said, I think he asked the connection between how many trans mass shooters have there been, right? Where is this? Oh, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the past 10 years? That was the question. Then Kirk says too many. Kozak replies the number is 5. Kirk says counting or not counting gang violence. And then that's when the shot happens. Well, this Kozak guy actually interviewed Deseret News. When you read this interview, it's kind of interesting because, like I said, he has he's like married, so he's 20. Yeah, so he's 29 years old. He's a father of 2. I thought he was married. Oh yeah. And the minutes before his call, so the FBI actually contacted him, which we have confirmation of today because Dan Bongino said they're investigating if there's a connection between this guy and the shooter. this article makes it sound like there probably isn't, but still a question to ask because, you know, maybe he just made that up. I don't know. But he says here, minutes before this is kind of sad. Minutes before his call with the FBI, a nurse also called to tell Kozak and his wife that it's possible their youngest child, a baby girl born Sunday, who remains hospitalized in a neonatal intensive care unit, may have a heart defect. So this is actually this guy, if he has no connection to anything, meaning to the tranny chaser shooter, this is sad because he's clearly going through a lot of stress generally. Kind of an unfortunate situation. So I hope things you know, go better with his daughter. Let's see. So that gets us there. Then you've got the whole thing where they you know, what Kash Patel said is they found a screwdriver on the roof. And then said, you guys are making a lot of comments. I'll read them in a little while. Yeah, you got a screwdriver on the roof, and then there was also a towel on the rifle, and then the rifle. So those are like the three pieces of evidence that they were able to find at the crime scene. On the screwdriver and the towel, they had fingerprints on them. The rifle itself is being looked at by ATF, and they're trying to see if the fingerprints or any other DNA matches. That, he said, will take some time. So then what happens after the shooting? The guy runs, right? So this video I thought was kind of interesting because one of the questions that keeps popping up is what happened to the gun. Well,
rifle in hand as he fled. However, that is not the case, and I will demonstrate it in this video for you. This video was pulled from NBC, the opportunity and repeat segment for you to follow.
Okay, he's going to show us.
As the video starts, we can see Charlie Kirk's shooter in the background behind the central structure on the roof of the building, moving from left to right. At this point, you can see the shooter is bending down to lower himself off the roof. He's got something in his right hand that's long and straight. I've gone ahead and zoomed this in, and I will be looping the video so that you can see how the object is clearly a long, straight line object similar to a rifle. The loops help illustrate that.
And before he started talking here, he said that he has some sort of technology, like with Adobe, that he can enhance this a little bit. He's done that. And so what he's trying to show is that looks like the rifle with the towel on it.
At this point, the shooter has gone over the edge of the roof. He then takes his right hand and lifts the rifle up and lowers it over the side. And you can see the barrel cleanly.
See.
Right here, you can see he's clearly holding something in his right hand that is a large object that probably is the rifle wrapped in a towel. And again, after he's landed, he's clearly holding an object here that's long and straight in his hands, probably the rifle in a towel. As he flees, you can see the towel flopping around. So in summation...
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. I know that's been a question that's popped up, is where is the rifle? Is he actually holding it? I think that's that he is, if you look at that video at least. Then, okay, so then at 12:39... this is the day of the shooting. So we've got, 8:29 a.m. the guy shows up at UVU. 12:23 a.m. or p.m. the shooting happens. 12:39 p.m. all the police chiefs and FBI check. Then 9/11, 10 a.m. the FBI releases the first photos of the suspect. 10:45 a.m. FBI announces an award of $100,000. 5 p.m. 9/11, Kash Patel and Bongino showed up to Utah. 5:30 p.m. This is where I think it's a little bit weird. Equality Utah releases this really weird video. Let me play this for you. I'm totally puzzled by this. I don't understand why they released this video. I'll play a little bit at least. It's really hard to listen to Troy Williams. So.
My cousin is a student there. We have many friends on campus. And when the news broke, my heart was gripped with fear for their safety. When violence is aimed at someone because of their beliefs or their speech, it doesn't just wound one person. It ripples outward, shaking entire communities. And today, people of faith, conservatives, and those who hold traditional worldviews are grieving. And there are many LGBT Utahns who are also
This is a good,
also people of faith, and they are mourning.
This is a very good point, Higher Ground, because Higher Ground said, just checked, yes, Troy Williams left off the queue in his Equality Utah statement on Charlie Kirk's murder. And he did it in his video too. This video is weird because this video came out before we learned that the shooter is a tranny chaser with a tranny boyfriend or whatever.
And progressive Utahns and Americans of all backgrounds are also grieving the loss of what we all value, the freedom to express and debate ourselves freely and publicly without the fear of violence.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this video is so ridiculous because Troy Williams targets people who he considers to be a threat. He actually contacted my former employer and pressured them to fire me. So I think this video is totally ridiculous. But I don't understand why he released this video at all. And personally, I kind of wonder if he got a heads up that this was going to involve transgender people and people that like having relations with transgender people, and that's why he released this video to get ahead of the bad publicity.
The LGBT community knows this pain. We have lived it. We all remember the horror of the shooting in Orlando.
So that was done by the son of an Afghan refugee. And he was like a radical Muslim. So not really a comparable to what happened here.
The massacre in Colorado Springs, the murder of Harvey Milk.
Anybody think that the Harvey Milk thing is connected? I don't.
And the ongoing violence against transgender Americans.
Anybody? Okay, like this video is so ridiculous. It's so hard to watch.
We know how it feels to be targeted for who we are and who we love. And that is why today we stand shoulder to shoulder with those mourning Charlie Kirk. To his family who lost a husband and a father, we hold you in our hearts. To my conservative family members, friends, and neighbors who are hurting, I want you to know that I love you and I mourn with you. And I also know that moments like this stir fear of retaliation, fear.
Okay, I can't lie. This is just gross. Let me see if I can just go to here. I had taken a little piece of this. I see that people have picked up on the weird. It's so weird. Okay, here. I thought this was weird too.
So we've been in regular contact today with SLCPD, the governor's office, and state leaders, and we will update you as we learn more.
Okay. So I have filed a grandma request with the governor's office and SLCPD because I'm curious if they contacted because here's the thing. After they got the weapon or the gun rifle, after they got the rifle, they also had the bullets, and so they knew the messages that were on the bullets before they caught the suspect. Does that make sense? So like they already knew what the bullets said, and I am wondering if they saw the message. The message was let me tell you the message. There are 4 messages. The one that was actually fired at Charlie Kirk and killed him said, "Notices bulges, OWO, what's this?" That is, now some people say it's a furry thing. I also read it's a tranny chaser thing, that the people who say that are actually tranny chasers, which is what the killer was. Then there was also one that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." And then, "Oh, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow, Chow." And then and the 4th one, was, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." So the first message and the 4th message. So notices bulges, OWO, what's this? The first message. And the last message, if you read this, you are gay, LMAO. These, when you combine these, strike me as transgender stuff. A lot of times the thing with these tranny chasers too is that they are adamant that they are straight and they are not gay. That's part of the whole, even though if you want my personal opinion, this shooter is probably actually gay. I think his partner or whatever is just beginning to transition. So I think he has male parts. So if they're having sex together, that means that they are homosexuals. Nothing wrong with it, but like he probably is not comfortable with that because he probably went and watched a ton of weird porn and then turned himself into a tranny chaser instead. But if they knew that these messages were on there, it's possible that there was some sort of notification that happened to try to get ahead of what would be they might consider bad publicity. I kind of am trying to think like they would. But I did file a grammar request with the governor's office and with SLC PD to see if there was any sort of notification that happened. Carmelita says, I bet you that Troy and Ryan Smith were briefed before Cash. I don't know, maybe. Okay, so then that's 5:30 p.m. Equality Utah releases that very bizarre video. 8 p.m. Governor Cox has a press conference where they release never before seen video, and I think it's still images. And then also 10 p.m. local time, the suspect was in, and then within a couple hours, the suspect is in custody. The father saw the videos and the photos and identified the suspect. Then, you know, like I think it sounds like a bishop was involved in kind of convincing him to go and turn himself in, and he is in custody. Okay, great. I will say there's a lot of people feeling bad for the parents about this because the kid will get the death penalty, or well, maybe, I don't know. Allegedly, he might get the death penalty, I guess. I mean, he did a really horrible thing. I would hope that you'd want your child to, you want justice, considering what the guy did. It's kind of horrible. Okay, what is this? Let's see. Mr. Producer says, okay, hold on. The origin of the OWO slang is a combo of anime culture, furry fandom, and anime-tinted internet subcultures. The emoticon itself dates back to the early 2000s internet chat rooms and forums where people loved using ask to art to spice up their text. The hybrid use is likely stuck around thanks to its cute and easy to type vibe. Anime fans picked up on it because it mimics the exaggerated facial expressions typical in anime manga characters, and the furry fandom embraced it because it's a perfect way to express innocence, curiosity, or excitement in their community chats. Okay, that's a lot of stuff that I have no idea what it's about. Okay, but anyways, basically a bunch of freaks use it who are furries. Okay, so then let's see. There's some other. So that's kind of your timeline. There's a lot of open questions, a ton of open questions. Like, we need more information. Again, at the beginning of this whole thing, this kid was the shooter appears to have been a straight A student, got a full ride scholarship, I think, to USU, if I'm correct. I think that's right. Only went there for a semester and then dropped out. We don't know why. And then ends up back in Southern Utah. I think he's going to a trade school now. And I just want to know a lot more about what happened to him? Why did he turn to this very dark and demented ideology? And how did he get radicalized to shoot people up? And it sounds like there's a lot of people that know about it. That's the other piece of this. So we just got some breaking news before I came on about Discord. So initially, and this is on, I think, 9/12. So we're continuing. So 9/11, all that happens. He gets caught, I think, right? Then 9/12, because in one of the press conferences, they talk about Discord chats and how some of the planning appears to have happened on Discord. Well, Discord comes out on 9/12 and says that there were no chats like this. He didn't plan it here, and we are deactivating Tyler Robinson's account. Well, and so here I got this TMZ article about it. So they deactivate his account. So that's 9/12. We're now at 9/15. So they say They tell TMZ, in the course of our investigation, we identified a Discord account associated with the suspect, but have found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. Now, then they say, sorry. The messages referenced in recent reporting about planning details do not appear to be Discord messages. These were communications between the suspect's roommate and a friend after the shooting, where the roommate was recounting the contents of a note the suspect had left elsewhere. This may be referring to the paper note that we talked about earlier. Joke, and then the end it says, by the way, Discord says it has removed Robinson's account, which I think is kind of messed up because there's an ongoing investigation. I don't know why you think it's okay for you to remove an account like that. Then today, it says that Tyler Robinson, this is a tranny chaser, that he actually confessed to the crime in a Discord chat. So he says, hey guys, I have bad news for you all. Sent a message from an account belonging to a suspect, Tyler Robinson, on the online platform Discord. It was me at EUVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. Then he says, I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. The message posted at 7:57 p.m. local time in Utah continued. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything. And then what I thought was kind of interesting is if you look, people in this chat actually were like, it seems like they were not happy about what he had done. So like this guy, one of the people says, I just saw the video, holy S. Another user wrote about an hour and a half later, adding of Kirk, bro didn't deserve to go out like that, sad. And then this other person said, while Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I ask that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. So the chat is surprisingly mixed in terms of people's viewpoints, right? They're not all like, oh yeah, Charlie Kirk is dead, he deserved to die. They're actually a little more mixed, which I guess kind of surprised me. But people need to look into the Discord issue. Like, why are these tech companies always feeling like they can just delete accounts? They can take them down when we have these types of disasters. I don't think they should be allowed to do that because the problem is they're taking away evidence from the public as well. Like, we should be able to go and search the chats and try to find stuff. And I think these companies do it because of they're afraid of bad publicity, which they deserve, by the way, you know, if you think about it. Okay. So we went through all of this. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about what we have found here. So, okay. We all know now that the suspect is a tranny chaser. And like I said earlier, transgender people they're mentally ill and they have succumbed to a very evil ideology. And these are typically people that have a lot of mental problems. They're depressed, they're anxious, and they're looking for a way to address those problems. And people around them a lot of times will encourage them to become trans as a way to solve whatever your real underlying issue is. And typically it doesn't really solve anything. It just will make it worse because, for example, you could be a healthy male. You go through this process, you change your body, you snip, turn your male parts into a neo female parts. Now you can't get any pleasure at all. And I actually think they go into a deeper depression because, that piece of it for adults, the ability to have a connection with someone through intercourse is actually really important. You will never have that again. It destroys it. And I have read that a lot of people, even after transitioning, they are depressed and they commit suicide. And it's because of that. They never get satisfied through those connections with other people. And I'm trying to be a little bit vague in case someone underage is listening. I don't want to be too explicit. Now here, and I guess what I say that and I'm like the tranny chaser. All right, so here we find out. So that's transgender people. I actually see them a lot as victims. except if you're talking about autogynephiles. That's a gross fetish. And people typically who are autogynephiles, it's when you have the guys who are older that transition, they're middle-aged, they're looking at all sorts of weird porn, and they start getting turned on by the idea of being treated like a woman. And so the most likely time when you see that is men who are middle-aged in transition. And so every time you go and you participate in their little fetish, you are actually, they get turned on by it. So like a prominent transgender person in Utah is Sue Robbins. If you go up to Sue and you talk to him like he's a woman, no, okay, that's fine, Mr. Producer, I got you. And you treat him like a woman, you're participating in this little fetish. That's something to think about. Okay, so that's kind of like a fetish. Tranny chasers are full-on fetish. Because like I said when I was talking to Brandy, it is not normal to be attracted to somebody who is transgender. That is a fetish. It is freaky. And people have to go and look at all sorts of dark, gross stuff to rewire their brains to be attracted to that. And the reason and just for those of you who are heterosexual, maybe don't understand the gay thing. Like as a gay man, I am attracted to other men, but it's a normal man. There's no secret to this, right? It's just a man. Lesbians are attracted to women. They're not attracted to freaks. But the tranny chaser is something very specific and very weird. And I think these are people that are really demented. And so when you hear that the shooter is that, actually it doesn't surprise me that he's gone down this path, because that entire going down that entire path it means that you're in a very dark place. And so that really bothers me. But then the other thing I want to say is we have a supermajority Republican state. So a Republican governor, supermajority House, supermajority Senate. I and many other people, including Monica, who's commenting, have spent countless hours of time trying to extirpate the trans agenda from our state, from our laws, from our society, and trying to get rid of this evil, demonic ideology that is robbing your children's brains of a normal development and a normal, healthy life. And it's a real fight. And so a lot of what you're seeing right now is the result of what happens when you don't handle these issues appropriately when they need to be handled. And so if you think about this, like in 2022, I think it's 2022, we passed SB 16 that finally banned, or was a pause, but it bans giving children who are suffering from gender dysphoria puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Until that point in time, we were doing this to kids. We were sterilizing and mutilating them if they had gender dysphoria. I think that law went into effect in 2023 for people that are newly getting into the pipeline. For people that are already existing, they can still get their treatments. And so we had a state government in a supermajority Republican government that was allowing this to happen to children. The other thing is, and I think a lot of this happens because they invite and they work with Equality Utah. So Troy Williams, who's the executive director, and Marina Lowe, who is their policy advisor. They are all over the legislature all the time, meeting with Republican legislators and strategizing about how to promote transgenderism in Utah. And so all of your people like me and your other conservative activists in Utah, it's an uphill battle to get anything passed because these people are very powerful. And bizarrely, you have Republicans meeting with them. I don't even understand it. To me, it's just so puzzling. Let me show you a picture so you can see. Oh, here, well, I had a picture for this. I had a great picture. Let me see. I don't know what I did with it. Okay. Anyway, so and then but on the laws thing, it's not even just that. We had the HB 11 situation where the legislature tried to ban boys from playing girls sports. Governor Cox vetoed it because he actually supports boys playing girls sports. I mean, this is crazy, right? Then we had the whole men and women's locker rooms and bathrooms in Utah. We got HB 257. I think that was 2023. And we couldn't even get just a categorical ban on men and women's locker rooms and bathrooms, and vice versa. It should be both ways. But we got this weird compromise, totally unenforceable because it's so gray. But basically, men can still use women's bathrooms as long as they don't cause alarm, and they can use women's locker rooms if they get bottom surgery and a new oh, Brandy. Okay. Okay. Sorry, a little confused there. And they get bottom surgery and an amended birth certificate, which we shouldn't even allow, right? Like what are we doing? This is where I'm getting so confused with this. All of this is showing you, because this isn't the first time. By the way, this isn't the first transgender killer we've had in Utah. This is the second one. I was watching a little bit of War Room, and he pointed out, rightly so, this is the second transgender killer coming out of the St. George area. I almost wonder if St. George is being specifically targeted. Oh, Monica said HB 257, the locker room bathroom bill was 2024. So this Mia Bailey, that's not his real name. His real name is, let's see here. It's something, he changed his name. He gets to change his name in court, gets a new birth certificate. Then he goes and murders his parents. And isn't even remorseful about the whole thing. But that should just show you how bad this is. These are people that have serious problems, and instead of helping them overcome the mental health issues, become comfortable in their birth sex, we have an entire industry in Utah that is aimed at transitioning them and sending them down a path where they will never, ever, ever be either mentally or physically happy. This is just disgusting stuff. And I really, really think we need to double down on completely extirpating this from our entire society. But so this was the first one. This is just from a year ago. And now we have a second one. Apparently this, I think his name's actually Colin Troy Bailey. He changed it to Mia. He actually only lived a couple miles from what is his name? Tyler Robinson. Crazy, right? So I'm just wondering now, is there something going on down there in that kind of St. George area that we need to understand a little bit better? And this actually reminded me, I don't know if you guys remember this, but hold on, let me pull this up. Maybe is it this one? Sometimes I get a little confused. Oh, on this elected official thing, I remember I went and I testified actually in favor of a bill. Is it in favor of? Yeah, in favor of a bill to, well, actually, I kind of testified against a bill. So it was Carrie Ann Lisenby, who I actually think she has some good legislation. In this bill, she was trying to this was when Biden was still president, and she was trying to make it so that we would never have to put a man into the women's prisons. And so my point was with this whole thing, when I went up there, I was like, look, we support this bill, but we actually think the better solution here is if a man is trying to claim that he's a woman, he's in jail. If a male prisoner is trying to claim he's a female, then you should just segregate him and put him into a different part of the male prison. You should never put him into the female prison, because there's tons of stories about this. They go into the female prison, they rape the females, they impregnate them. It's horrific, right? This is these poor female prisoners, yeah, they committed a crime, they're doing their time, but they don't sign up to get raped. That's just horrid. But when I said that, what's his face, Senator Thatcher, called me a demagogue for suggesting or for saying that men should never be in women's prisons. But this is the type of elected leadership we have in here. At the time, he was a Republican. That's a Republican. Another one that is big on promoting the trans agenda that's a Republican is Todd Weiler. He's the one that actually paid for some woman to remove her breasts. He gave her $251 as a contribution so that she could go and get her breasts removed because she had gender dysphoria. When I asked him, because I texted him and I said, hey, I found this GoFundMe. Someone sent it to me. I was like, hey, check out this GoFundMe where Todd Weiler gave $251 to this trans male, so a woman who was transitioning to a man. And I guess he was using her for his political career for a while, and then he just dumped her. I mean, didn't, you know, like, because when I asked him, I said, well, you paid for this, you helped pay for her to remove her breasts. Did it help her mentally? And he said, I don't know. I don't even talk to her anymore. And I was like, well, did you suggest that she get some therapy to help her get comfortable in her body? I don't know. I didn't. I mean, heartless. And, you know, people push this like, oh, they think, you know, I'm going to be kind to this person. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to participate in their delusion instead of being helpful to them and actually saying, hey, look, I understand you are suffering right now. Let me help you become comfortable in your birth sex. Let me help you become comfortable in the body that God gave you. That's the only body that's ever going to work. No. Anyway, a little frustrating. Okay, and then, oh, here it is. Okay, so St. George. Do you remember, this is just a couple years ago, when HBO went down there and they had that public drag show? People remember that? They were totally targeting small towns across America, including St. George, right? And this was so, so I went and I watched the episode, and I did this so that none of you have to, just so we're all on the same page. It was so horrifying because they went and found, so first they had this 31-year-old woman who claimed she was non-binary, and she got top surgery to show it. I mean, I just thought to myself, I don't even know what non-binary is. It's not a real thing. And why do you need to do any surgery for that? That's a mental issue. Like, why don't you instead figure out, how do I become a woman again? Right? Because she's a woman. That's why I'm like, she should go. No, we can't do that. And then they even had some younger kids on here. Like, oh, and this bothered me so much. This mother, her daughter wants to transition to a male. The mother is concerned about this. She wants to talk to her daughter about the risk of transitioning. She specifically tells this drag queen, Shangela, that's the one whose face you see, about her concerns. And Shangela tells this mother, discourages her, says, don't talk to her about the risk of transitioning. That's not being affirming. Just disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. And then let's see. Oh, and she tells the mom, you should just affirm your daughter as she transitions to a trans male and destroys her physical and mental health. I mean, this is gross, right? Like, why are we allowing this in our state? And then and this is how, this will give you a sense of how not helpful this whole ideology is. The girl who wants to transition, this is what she thinks. She thinks that being a man means you stand with your legs apart and talk with a deep voice. It's just these like stereotypes about how men act that don't make any sense. And you're not gonna be happy. Nothing is gonna change about your life because you go and you transition. You're just gonna make everything worse. But I wonder if there has just been this concerted effort to send these trans, kind of promoting the trans ideology down in St. George, and it's had an impact. Now, if it can happen in St. George, which I consider that area to be like very conservative, much more conservative than Salt Lake County and the area where I live. But if it can happen in St. George, and if it can happen in Washington City, which is like smaller than St. George, this can happen anywhere in Utah. This can happen to any of your children. And we've got to get a handle on this. We have to get a handle on this, and we have to work to completely and extirpate the trans ideology and agenda from Utah. We've got to do it. And we've got to get these Republican legislators that are constantly out there promoting this disgusting agenda to do what we want and what we need to do, or vote them out. It's time to go. If you're not going to be brave enough to protect children and to handle this problem appropriately, then you need to go. Or go be a Democrat. Go live in California. I don't care. But stop it. By the way, if you want to call in, you can call in. It's 385-899-2134. I guess that's my little rant on that. I just, I see this whole thing. I feel like we've been trying to get ahead of it, and we've been trying so hard And I know those of you that listen that are part of this effort, you understand we have been working consistently and diligently to try to completely annihilate and destroy the trans agenda in the state. And it's just really hard. And because we're up against so many forces that are constantly trying to shut us down, whether it's Equality Utah, Governor Cox, who has his little weird relationship with Troy Williams, and other liberal groups, that the lieutenant governor is part of this. They all support it. Amy Winder Newton is part of this. Crazy, right? We have to do something. We have to get rid of this ideology. It's evil. It's just so evil. And the thing is once people go down this whole path, I think it's easy to radicalize them into all sorts of things. They're perpetual victims because they think everything is this horrible offense to them. So, you misgender them. They're super offended. They're crying in their car. And the next thing you know, like people can exploit that and bring them out to become shooters like they did with this Tyler Robinson. And so I am hoping that Utahns are picking up on this. And here's my final point on it. We have a state. It's majority LDS. And I think LDS people are family oriented. They're super nice, and sometimes though, I think they're nice to the point of being naive. And I've talked about this before. That's why I think we have the number one corruption state in the country and the number one fraud state for fraud. It's because people are a little bit naive. It's great to be nice, but I just hope we can help maybe kind of get rid of the naivete around these types of agendas so that we can protect your children, make sure that they're not being targeted, and hopefully going forward, we can. Oh, people are asking me to check the chat. Okay. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Hold on. I'm almost done. Anyway, so that's my goal. I think that we need to double down. We need to get this cleaned up. We're going to learn so much more, I think, about what is going on down there. But I also think that it's not just a St. George problem, because we have way more trannies up here. We need to figure out what is going on with these people, what's going on with this armed queers of Salt Lake City, things like that, right? So we got a lot of work ahead of us. Well, I guess let's spend a little bit of time in this chat. There are a lot of comments in here, and I feel a little bad. So let's see, we got. Okay, so we've got Danny Insight says, chat is good today. That's good. Danny has been to 3 different rallies in the last 2 months, almost to the point to quit my job for more rallies. This is getting insane. I don't know what you're referring to. Carmelita says, I have Mormon neighbors that never hang USA flag, but they have rainbow flags and BLM. I see that actually even in Riverton, and you definitely see that over in Daybreak. And I think some of that is what I was saying, people being very nice and not understanding that the trans and even the BLM ideology, these are very evil ideologies. The trans one specifically to me, though, is people think it's nice to treat someone as something they're not. So if a little boy comes to you and says he's a girl, they think it's nice to treat the little boy as a girl, but actually you are telling the little boy that he is born in the wrong body, which I think is a horrible thing to tell a child. And maybe I wish if more people understand that, they'll actually start rethinking how they view the trans agenda, and that might help us going forward. Let's see. Higher Ground says, Goud, Pride of Southern Utah is currently celebrating Pride Month 2025 this September down in St. George. Really? They have no fewer than 12 events calendared for the entire month, including a youth Pride night on September 17th and Dragalicious, which was held on the 13th. Man, like I said, I think they're being targeted down there. I will say the September date for that matches typically in hotter places they do that. So when I lived in Dallas, they had Pride weekend in September instead of June because Dallas is like super hot. But crazy to me. I can't believe that the youth Pride night thing really bothers me. That's weird. And I noticed this as well with In Circle. In Circle actually has events where like where the age range in the event is 12 to 25. And I just think that is really weird, because you shouldn't really have people of that age range that are not somehow related or like family friends and things like that hanging out, because you're going to have like what happened with Senator Adams's granddaughter raping the 13-year-old. That's how that stuff happens. Okay, you are listening to KMMU, Main Street Media, Utah. We're live on Rumble, YouTube, X, and our website, kmmu.org. Please like and subscribe on your favorite platform. Thank you so much for listening. Let's continue with the comments. Higher Ground says, GOP Senator Todd Weiler's SB 150 put LGBTQ protections on par with religious belief protections. This is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Utah is the only conservative state to pass religious protection laws based on RFRA that accommodated LGBTQ identity. Embarrassing. Yeah, I was there when they were talking about this, and I just couldn't believe that they included that. But Todd Weiler is probably one of the biggest groomers in Utah. And, we had a chance to knock him out and we didn't. So he's going to be there for 4 years. I would just tell people 2028 will be here in no time. Maybe we really need a candidate to go and run against him. I always thought a great candidate for that type of a race would be someone like a Lady MAGA. Can you just imagine you'd want to definitely have debates with that. It'd be like a really fun, just like, so because Lady MAGA is very eloquent on these issues, but on the opposite side of Todd Weiler. Carmelita, I think she's referring to Todd Weiler, says, and he is on the board of the Children Gateway Museum. I did not know that. Not surprising. Oh, okay. I didn't know this. So Higher Ground says male prisoners are put into jail with females right now. FYI, Lisenby's bill did not stop this from happening. I talked to her in the last session, and she told me that there are no men in any women's prison in Utah. So that surprises me. I'd like to know more about that, because I talked to her about her bill, and I was like, would you be willing to revisit it now that Trump is president? And she said yes. So I think if we want to go back and say, hey, we want a categorical ban on men being allowed to go into women's prisons, I think she would give it to us. Carmelita says it's not a coincidence how many LGBTQ representatives we have in city councils. It's not. I will say this, though. If you get conservative gays like me on these councils, you'll get a better outcome, right? Because what you'll get is people that can actually, within the community, who understand the issues deeply and can counter all of this garbage, versus those types of wokesters. It's like the LGBTQ people like what's his face, the mayor of Midvale, Dustin Gettle, who makes them celebrate Pride from like February until June. Or I think even most of the Salt Lake City Council now is gay. Or actually, I think some of them would consider themselves queer. That's their thing, right? Because it's political. And you need actually the other side, because the countering is much stronger when you understand the issues more deeply. I think a lot of times our legislators, for example, are all on the Republican side. They're all heterosexual LDS people. They don't really understand the issues. And I think that's why they shy away from them. And they're not really strong on these transgender issues. So Candace Parisi thinks it's fine for men to go in women's locker rooms and bathrooms, but she thinks that because she's not able to actually counter the talking points of the left. If you had a conservative gay, you could actually do it. And like Lady MAGA could kill it. They'd be past, they wouldn't, because he would just pull them apart. All right, Carnelita says, 6 years ago, I was in a coffee shop, and then there was a girl from California talking to another girl and telling her that she got hired by an NGO. I don't even remember the name of the NGO, but she said that she was hired to push the LGBTQ agenda in Utah along with other people. Oh, wow. That would be interesting to know about. Yeah, you should see if it comes back to you like memory wise. Let me know, because that's fascinating. I think that's really fascinating. Let's see here. Danny Insight says this 100, but I think he's talking about the last one. And Higher Ground says, or they can just claim, this is talking about HB 257, Or they can just claim intersex and they have a free pass to the bathrooms and locker rooms of women and girls. Ugh, that's so messed up. And then let's see. Brandy B says, yes, Goud, I'm still here. I don't know what that means. Okay. Higher God says, thank you for being strategically vague. Let's see. Danny Insight says, Discord now, they just moved to Reddit. Reddit is crazy. Someone sent me that video. I don't know if you saw it on X, but Governor Cox is doing this like video for students in Utah. Oh, I'll play it for you. This is with his spray tan and makeup on. He's got to look pretty.
And I want to take just a
I know this. Notably, he doesn't use those pronouns to.
I know this past week has been incredibly tough. We've all felt the weight of anger, fear, and loss. And I want to take just a moment to speak directly to you, students throughout Utah. Right now, it may feel like rage is the only language in our politics, but
Okay, I just want to say something. He talks like this a lot. In one of his press conferences, he was saying how he felt so angrier than he's ever felt before. Angry. And I just think he comes off as unhinged. You know, like Charlie Kirk getting murdered, I didn't feel angry. I felt sad, very sad. But I never felt like angry. Right? Like, I just think he sounds unhinged. Like there's something wrong with him. Like, control your emotions. You're in elected office.
Have the power to choose differently. Every person you meet is more than a party, or more than a label, more than a post online. Everyone deserves dignity and respect. That means talking to people you disagree with, listening even when it's hard, and forgiving even when it feels impossible. Campuses like yours must be a place of the free exchange of ideas. It's critical to our American experiment. I want to challenge you to spend less time online where outrage has become so normal, and more time in
this. If you notice, elected officials spend a lot of time discouraging people from being on social media. And I think some of that is because they're not able to control the narratives, because social media breaks the narratives. And so that's what I interpret this as. I don't think you should be on social media all the time or anything like that, but I do think there's value to it. And I don't think it's all people being angry. I mean, I'm on social media. I'm not angry. I mean, whatever. It's a weird. There's a very concerted effort, because I think he knows he does not look good on social media.
in the real world, put down your phone, read something that lifts your spirit, go outside, laugh with your friends, serve your neighbors. Remember, what happens online is not real life. And if you're wondering whether this can actually make a difference, just look around. Utahns lead the nation in service, in giving, in community. When tragedy...
I mean, okay, so I live here, so I'm just going to say this. I think some of this is wanting to just move on from this because the facts are kind of bad, right? You have a Mormon family in Utah that, again, strikes me as a pretty typical Mormon family. They end up with a kid who gets radicalized. Basically, this trans radicalization is what you would see in like Muslim families when a kid goes from being maybe a mainstream Muslim into a radical Muslim and then commits a terror attack. So it's like a trans jihad or something. And I think instead of trying to deal with it and understand it and just figure out what that means, he wants it. I think there are people, and it's not just him, there are people that just want to move on from it because they're afraid it makes the Mormon religion look bad. I want to add, I don't see it that way. I just see it as, I don't want other kids here to fall for this ideology. Now, he's a big promoter of it, so I think part of the problem is he may think accurately and correctly that this damages his political standing because, honestly, we have a big transgender population in Utah. We have one of the highest rates of transgenderism in the country, and it's because of him. He has invited in left-wing groups like Equality Utah. I mean, let me say that in a supermajority Republican state, No Republican legislator needs to meet with Equality Utah for anything. They don't need Equality Utah support for anything. Their voters, Republicans, don't have any affinity for Equality Utah. Why do you think they meet with Troy Williams and Marina Lowe all the time? It's not because the legislators necessarily want to. It's because of pressure from Governor Cox and big donors like Ryan Smith and Gail Miller. They're big supporters of the trans agenda. And so this transgenderism issue is also being driven by donor money. And these donors, they don't care if they destroy your children's minds and radicalize them. All they care about is their sick and disgusting agenda. And he's part of it. So he bears responsibility for setting up the environment that created Tyler Robinson.
He struck this past week. There weren't riots or destruction. There were vigils.
Well, yeah, again, this it's because Republicans. It's Republicans. Of course there weren't riots. If it was leftists, there would be riots everywhere. He keeps saying this like it's a Utah thing. It's not a Utah thing. It's because it's not leftists that were involved. Oh, sorry.
Prayers and people coming together. That's the Utah way. Your generation can carry that forward. You can build a culture where we embrace differences without letting hate divide us, where hope is stronger than cynicism, and where forgiveness breaks the cycle of violence. My friends and Utahns, this is our moment. The question is, do we escalate or do we walk down the better path?
Okay. Nobody has advocated escalating violence. Nobody on the right. I don't know what the left is doing. Nobody has advocated that. Now, what we are advocating, though, is things like designating Antifa a terrorist group, going through and investigating these left-wing groups that promote the trans ideology, that are funding groups like Armed Queers for Utah, that are funding, there's some weird furry group down in southern Utah, that are funding the pride stuff that's pushing this agenda everywhere. Yeah, we need to go through and do that. We should have steely resolve on that point, because we have now seen how dangerous the trans agenda is. It is causing terrorism, and we need to handle it appropriately. I am not moving on from that and just going to kumbaya and playing patty cake with leftists, which is what this guy wants. I don't even understand the way he thinks, except, people know what I think his real agenda is. Probably trying to please Troy Williams.
My prayer is that you will choose humanity, connection, and love. And I believe with all my heart that you will.
And he's not even being honest to these students, right? These poor students, we are a majority Republican state. We have a lot of conservative students too. Why wouldn't you tell them the truth? The left is violent. Help us extirpate this violent ideology out of our society so that you can have free speech, so that you can freely gather and you can talk about your ideas, and you don't have to feel like a leftist is going to show up and shoot you up, or a leftist is going to beat you up, or any of that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry. I got more comments. Hold on. We got more comments. Okay, sorry. Mr. Producer. Somebody is messaging Mr. Producer about me. Okay, hold on. I would knock on doors. Oh, wow. Hey, someone wants to be Lady Maga's Scott Pressler. I'll pass that along to him. She lies. Who is the lying one about? No men in any women's prison. Where is Mia Bailey? That's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to maybe is that what you're, for Higher Ground, is that who you're talking about? Is that Mia Bailey, the transgender killer, parent killer from down in southern Utah? Is he in a female prison? Because he did change his birth certificate and his name. Then Higher Ground says men don't belong in women's bathrooms or locker rooms, period. They are super vulnerable. This is not okay. It needs to change. Agreed. And this might be, maybe one idea is for everyone that's been working on this is we need to go this session and tell the legislators we want all these things passed this session, at the beginning of the session, and we want it handled appropriately. We're not doing this like, oh, let's do incremental changes so that 20 years from now we'll finally be able to have bathrooms and locker rooms only for men and only for women. Like, we want it all done this year at the beginning of the session. We want it done. So something for people to think about. Carmelita says, on my comment of the NGO goes the other comment that it is not a coincidence that there are so many LGBTQ council members. Oh yeah, totally. There's a very concerted effort to push that on, especially by the Democrats. Cox's acting is so bad. Oh, I know. I think he has tape on. So like, if you look at his like here, usually like they sink down a little bit. Like, I think there's some tape on him. Danny Insight, I'm going to need high school pressure meds if you keep playing Cox's voice. He sounds happy and cringe. Yeah, totally cringe. I don't know what... you said... Danny Insight says experiment. What experiment is he talking about? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Carmelita says, he said at the first press conference that Utah's government was trying to shut down Russian and Chinese bots that were spreading misinformation. I didn't get that they were trying to shut them down. I just think he said... we're seeing all this misinformation from Chinese and Russian bots, which they always say that stuff. I don't actually believe that. Mr. Producer says Cox is way over dramatic. He needs an acting class. He's probably taken acting classes. I think a lot of these guys are actually actors. Danny Insight says, for real, the bots are out in full force. That's why he wants you off the news so you don't see this and vote for this fool. Carmelita, isn't Ryan Smith close friends with Obama? Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. You know, my thing with him is I think he has gay face. Now you won't be able to look at him and not think about that. Carmelita says, my friends in Utah, this is our moment. I hear it more. Oh, wait. Quote unquote. He says, my friends in Utah, this is our moment. And then she says, I hear it more. This is my moment. Don't ruin it. Yeah. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of interesting to say, like, this is our moment. Just to do what? You have created the environment that caused us to have multiple shootings by trannies. We have one of the highest incidences of transgenderism in the entire country. That's crazy. Is that the moment you're talking about? Now he just wants to move on from that and say, oh, you guys, no big deal. Let's move on and talk about how we have a high rate of volunteerism. Okay, well, I mean, that's great and all, but you also, it's the same, that is you, Governor Cox, through your policies, created the killer that murdered Charlie Kirk. You don't get to just move on from that. Oh, okay, I skipped a comment. Hold on. Where is this? Or they can just claim into something about plagiarizing. Oh, wait. So Danny Insight says SLC Mayor Aaron Mendenhall left the cue off in our statements on Charlie Kirk as well. That's interesting. I'm going to have some fun on X later. But if that guy was on top of it, Cox. Can you reprint? Monica, can you re-put the comment you're talking about? I guess I'm not seeing it. I'm having a little bit of trouble finding it. Oh, she reposted it. Okay, where is it? I don't see it yet. I'm waiting. Okay. I will not play any more Governor Cox for you guys because I feel bad. That is really just torture. There's one other thing I want to show you guys that was kind of interesting and that people outside of Utah will not understand. About plagiarizing. Well, no, I don't see it. All I see is an up. Tell her to read. You need to do it again. All I see is an up finger. While you do that, I'm just going to play it.
For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I hoped for. Just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. You know, this.
Okay. So this comment, what's kind of interesting is I've seen people repost and they'll be like, why? That comment is so weird. And, you know, I live here, so I actually understood it to mean I think this is trying to deal with the fact that it was a Mormon family. And actually, he did an interview with the Atlantic magazine, okay, which is a totally left wing, owned by Laurene Powell Jobs, Steve Jobs' widow. She is like an evil woman who's trying to destroy the country. And so, you know, as part of his whole little publicity tour, because he's trying to up his national presence, he went and did an interview with them. He told them, and though he was relieved that an arrest had been made, he was also seemed unnerved by the alleged killer's identity, a 22-year-old man who'd grown up in a Mormon family in the southern Utah town of Washington. So I understood this. When he made the comment, I did not think it was weird because I live here. I live among Mormons or LDS people, and so I understood exactly what he was saying. But the comments from people that don't live in Utah are kind of interesting. They actually don't understand it, and they see it as being very weird. But I understood it. He's trying to process what happened. Okay, I still don't see this comment about plagiarism. I don't know what I'm looking for. Okay. Oh my God, I have another one I got to show you guys because this one is, she did the thing I'm always talking about. Okay. Well, we'll do this. This is the last one. Okay. That I'm going to play. Oh, okay. Thanks, Mr. Producer. Okay, here you go.
This morning, my son texted me and said, "Hey, this is Tyler Robinson that lives 3 doors down." And I'm like, no, it can't be. And it was. And it's shocking. That's not who's in our neighborhood. And I feel for his mom. I love Amber. She's a great mom, and he has a great dad. My grandson happened to be at that rally.
Right? She did the thing. Great mom, great dad. And okay, and here's the I'm not trying to be really overly critical of her because, again, I think she's just trying to cope with what happened and try to understand it better. So I'm not trying to mock this woman. I think this is a very deep and heavy issue. It's very sad, and people are going to try to cope with the grief and try to understand it in different ways. But this gives you an insight into kind of Utah's culture, right? That I don't know if they're good parents or not. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Who knows? I think we'll figure that out in the future. Okay. I think we're almost at time here. You know, so that's kind of like, that's where I'm at. I think again, this is me. I was like, oh my gosh, she did the thing. She did the thing where she says they're good mom and good dad. And I was like, I mean, again, they might be. I don't know. I think we'll find out more. As we learn more about how he ended up going down this kind of dark path, we'll understand this. We'll understand this better. Okay, well, we've got some things here. Hold on. The post from the SLC. See, sometimes I can't get these posts when you do the comments on here. I don't know why. I think I have to. Oh, I guess I'm letting you see my Twitter. Not that it matters. I mean, you can see it yourself. Hold on. But I can't actually do this way. Now I can see my face, which is always really awkward. Go in here. I can't figure this out. Never mind. Now I'm looking at myself twice, which is really okay. Anyway, I think we're good for today. I apologize to Monica that I can't find the post you're talking about. So sorry about that. This has been the Goud Crowd. I'm your host, Goud. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that people understand better where we are and keep asking questions. I think that's kind of my encouragement here. Don't let them tell you to stop asking questions. Don't let them try to shut you down if you're trying to say, hey, I want to know more about this. I want to know more about the timeline. I want to know what he was looking at. How did he become radicalized? What was he like as a kid? When did this happen? When did he go from a 4.0 student in high school into a total freak? What happened in between there? I want to know everything. And I hope you guys are all feeling that way. Do not let the people in power shut down your questions or tell you that it's not appropriate to ask questions. You have every right to know every single thing about this family, about this kid, about the planning and everything. And that's actually a great point. I think actually Monica had a point about that they still have not found the bullet. And so hold on. Well, let me find that and I'll read it to you guys because I think that was a good comment as well. She said, "Oh, agreed. This seems coordinated. Maybe an attempt to make the LGBTQ movement appear less bonkers." Probably. But if that guy on the top of the roof, would he have been able to hear this exchange about the trans shooter? Just wondering about the acoustics. That's the thing. I'm not sure about that. It almost seems like you'd have to have some pre coordination. This is the final comment. This round hasn't been recovered. So that's the round that came out of the bulges, noticed, OXO, something weird. This round hasn't been recovered, which they need to conclusively match the weapon recovered to the crime. Okay, so then we don't even know if we have the right weapon yet. I mean, it kind of sounds like they do, but yeah, understood what you're saying. Okay, like I said, don't let them don't let them shut you down if you're asking questions. Keep asking questions. We need to understand every single thing that happened here. Because again, this looks like a stereotypical Utah family to me, and I'm sure to lots of you. And we want to make sure that we understand what happened so that we can protect other children from going down this dark and dangerous path. With that, thank you for listening to the Goud Crowd. It has been, I hope this has been a helpful show. And I will see you guys next week. In the interim, if you have anything you want to send my way, feel free to DM me, text me if you have my number. I'm always open to hearing ideas that you have for shows or issues that you want to talk about. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.